All right, what's up? So I'm gonna show you guys a 3D model I made for Blender. It's a base model in a style like low poly style, and pretty much you can animate the face and the clothes using UV coordinates on a texture or a texture, pretty much. So yeah, this is just gonna be like I'm gonna show you guys what it looks like at first, and then I'm gonna further break down each component that makes up how the system works, and then hopefully you can like utilize it in your own projects. If you want full access to both of the projects, I have a link to my fab, so you can just copy it, and then I give you the Blender file along with the Unreal file, and then I'll regularly update it if I find innovations to make it a smoother process. Mainly thinking about like a physical facial rig setup, but for now you can just change the index here or just use the animation notifies, and it still works pretty good to me. Let's keep it a buck. So here's what my rig look like in Blender, or I gotta say mine. So here's what the rig look like in Blender. As you can see, if I move this bone, it changes the eye shapes. If I move this bone, change the mouth shapes. And if I change this bones, it changes the color of the outfit. And typically when you import it into game engines, it just doesn't transfer over. So my solution was to just make a simple way to still keep the animations for the face, and if you change clothes, the clothing within the game engine, so you don't lose that, you feel me? I know it's to describe it, but it looked kind of weird without the facial expressions to me. So yeah, because the animation within Blender actually looks like this. As you can see, she blinks. But if I didn't add the system I'm showcasing now, it would just be staring off into space, you know? I don't know, it might cause like she got like eye strain or some shit. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Blender. So here's a quick demo of how it looks before we get into like the nitty gritty, you feel me? So as you can see, you can blink using swapping between UV coordinates, and it also changes the mouth shapes. And as you can see, the clothes, I have different colors, and pretty much you change them based on an index, and you use animation notifies to add them in, because typically when you import a model from like, let's say Blender, it doesn't store the data on the bones that change the facial expressions, so you have to do it within the game engine. So you feel me? This is a walk animation I made just to showcase how it works. And then here's 3 models. For this model, it's just the base model, so it has 3 facial expressions, 3 mouth shapes, and then I just made 3 different clothing colors. So yeah, these are the models. And all right, I'm gonna show you guys the step-by-step breakdown of how this works. All right, for the material setup, I just made a separate material within Unreal, because the one imported from your model typically is not going to have all this, and it has to be dynamic. So yeah, so the setup goes is I added a texture sample, and then when you import the model, if we go to mine, as you can see, it's say materials, boom, and then if we go here, we got the textures. So each texture stores certain UV data, so it's pretty important to the setup. So right here, as you can see, it says mouth, so whichever texture was saved for the mouth, you just use that one, so that way the UV data is saved properly, at least from my knowledge. I just align it with that. And then I like the emissive color without any like I just keep it unlit pretty much. And this is the basic setup. Now I'm not going to go too in detail of how all these work, but just know that pretty much it goes in between each index. So right here it says 0, but when I change it to 1, as you can see, the texture changes between the 3 But for default, we keep it at 0 because we're gonna have a setup in the blueprints that change most of it. But this is pretty much how it looks. If you guys want, I'll make a further in-depth tutorial on how each component works. But for now, I just want to keep it simple to show how it works, or just the fundamental of how it looks. All right. And also, this material is literally a copy and paste for the rest of the materials, but the only difference is just, again, the texture sample I'm using. And then I'll also rename this parameter. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So now we're going into the blueprints of the character, and I made everything, or I put everything in the okay, now we're gonna go into the blueprints of the character. I put everything in the construction script because from my knowledge, it updates like every frame pretty much. So it was way simpler than trying to do it in the event graph, and it just worked for me. So this is the way I do it. It's probably like, you know, there's always other ways to do stuff, but this works for me. So as you can see, I'm gonna state the variables first. So I made, for example, the mouth material, I made it a dynamic, instant dynamic, you feel me, variable type. And then I have the mouse index, which is an integer. So this pretty much controls the parameter I showed you guys in the material to swap between each UV coordinate. So I made everything within functions to keep it like organized. I don't know how it would look if it wasn't in functions, but there's two main functions. There's the, here for example, we're gonna dive into the mouth function. It's this setup. Pretty much this is just stating which material I'm using, for instance. And then if you wanted to, for debugging purposes, you could change this value and it would change the UV coordinate in the viewport. But this is what it looks like. Again, I'm not gonna go too in depth, but just know that this is literally a copy and paste. And the only thing I changed is this material instance because you set it up in the viewport, but I'll get to that towards the end. Or you saw it in the beginning actually, but for the conclusion, I'll show it again. And then for the update, this pretty much dictates if it updates like each frame in a sense, like, or when it's gonna like, I'm trying to figure out a way to better rephrase this. For example, if I wanted to update it within the viewport, let's say, and wanted the change to happen versus just having to like manually go back and forth and doing it, this is what does it pretty much. That's my best breakdown for this. Again, I'm not gonna go too in depth with it. If anybody wants like a tutorial, just let me know on how each component really truly works, and I go more in depth. This is mostly surface level because the main gist of it is showing the how to just actually do the animations for your facial expressions or clothing and all that jazz. But this is just the background on how it all works. And again, I just literally copy and paste the same thing, and then, you know, where it say mouth material and mouth index, I just swapped it with like eye, body, and you can go on and on for real. And then again, I just put it all together through on the constructor. So this is what it looks like, and you can add more to it if you wanted to, but for this base model, I'm just gonna keep it simple. So the main way on how you actually do animations, at least from how I'm gonna do it in this approach, is I'm using animation notifies. It just seemed the most simplest to me. So how it works is that each notify changes an index. It changes to a specific index based on what we set it. So for example, everything starts from 0. So if I have 3 textures or 3 UV coordinates, it just goes 0, 1, 2. So 0 is technically 1, but it's 0. But as you can see, this is how it looks. Again, I'm gonna say it again. I'm not gonna go further in depth with it, but this is how the notify works. And to sum it up, again, I set the index to 0, and this notify pretty much sets the texture to the base one, you feel me? And then if you want to add more, let's say you have 3 textures, you would just have to copy and paste this same setup and then set the index to 1. Literally, if I go here, it's just going to be 1, and then boom. These are the notifies, and I made it by just you go to Blueprint. I was confused when I did this. You go to Blueprint and you literally type in notify, and then you have anim notify, and that's what I used because it doesn't appear up here. But yeah. All right, so now for the actual animation process. As you can see, you have the notify tracks over here, and you can make new tracks. Like, say for instance, if I want to make a third one, just to keep things organized, like say if I wanted to switch the clothing in between, then I could just do that. And my workflow is more like I have a second monitor on the left, and you don't typically see the I don't know if it's a setting you can use to just change it so you can see it right here, but from my knowledge, I just do it while it's just running in real time in a viewport. But if you right click and do add notifies, all your notifies would be right here, and you can just add it in and it'll change the animation. So I'm gonna just show you guys what I mean. So again, I just dragged it to the left, and then if I play it real time, and let's say I wanted to just, I'm gonna shift over, hold on, I'm gonna shift it over, I'm gonna shift like one of the mouth index over, and as you can see, it just slows down, or it speeds up actually because it's towards the end, but you get what I mean. It changes the value, and then in terms, you feel me, it changes the animation. So that's pretty much how I go about the animation process with using UV textures. Again, we can make some changes again just to show you. Like if I move this around, move it towards the beginning, move this towards the end, or move this towards the beginning too. And then I go back into the live viewport, the animation speed changes between frames. And that was like the most simplest way I was thinking to go about it, just to keep everything like, you know, pretty reasonable. But yeah, again, if you guys, oh shit. But then yeah, again, if you guys want like a more in-depth tutorial on how each component truly works by like each blueprint block or whatever, and the same with the material, just let me know. I'll be down to further explain it, but I gotta write that down because you feel me, it's a lot of details. I don't want to go on like a yapping spree. I hope this can help with like future projects anybody's working on, because looking on the internet for this shit was like tough. There's not a lot of people actually like talking about it, and fuck bro, it took some time, but we here with it, you feel me? So again, I hope this helps. If you want the project files, it's going to be in the description. I don't know how to end these, but yeah, you feel me? I hope this shit helped.